Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So it's been about 2 weeks since I did the unboxing video for this watch, and I think I'm ready to do like a short-term review for this. So I'll just start with the reason why I got this watch in the beginning. Yeah, I kind of wanted a watch with a rotating timing bezel for a while. Like if you look at my collection, I don't have any of that. The only watch I have a rotating bezel is like a watch from my childhood, which is this one that I featured in my childhood watch video. But yeah, I never really used this as a timing device. So finding a watch with a rotating bezel and it has to be non-circular, it's quite difficult. I mean, it's in the nature to be a circular thing to be rotating. So I looked for a while, like there's some options out there, like Bell and Ross does one, but it didn't really, the design didn't really speak to me. It had this like pizza in a box look, like circle in a complete square. Alpina Sea Strong also does a pretty nice cushion shaped diver. I was thinking about it for a while, and then this Formex came out with the initial Reef Diver model, and it really piqued my interest. It like kind of ticked all the boxes. I was already kind of interested in like this porthole design due to like the popularity of the Nautilus, and I never owned a watch with that case shape before, so I was really interested. The only thing that was kind of lacking in the diver version was it didn't have a exhibition case back, and I kind of wanted a watch with that. And so when the GMT, this model, came out, like the only thing I needed to know was whether the GMT bezel could be swapped out with the diver bezel, and I emailed Formex and they said yes. And as a bonus, it's actually bi-directional, which is like perfect for me because I don't intend to use this watch as an actual diver. So for me in my daily work, having a bi-directional bezel makes getting to the minute hand much easier. So yeah, that's when I kind of pulled the trigger and bought the GMT with a dive bezel, which is like this one. I kind of wanted the black on black just to keep it simple. So yeah, that's like the reason why I got this. So I'm gonna just do a quick measurement spec stuff. Alright, so this is a very clean and nice looking, I guess you can call it a diver at this point, but it's still a GMT watch. It's got like apply markers, apply logo as well. The new logo is pretty nice, much better than, well, the old Formex didn't even have a logo. It was just a name brand logo. The date wheels color match, which is really nice. And then the style has this sunburst effect, which is pretty nice. One of the main attraction is it's super thin for a 300-meter diver, with an exhibition case back. It's like only 11.4. Let me just do the measurement. So this is 11.6, and I think on the website it says there's like a perceived height, which I believe it's like basically not counting the case back, and this is like 9.2, because when you wear it on your arm, this bottom part kind of just disappears into your tissue. The diameter of the watch, I think you have to measure without the bunny ears. It's like 42. If you do include the bunny ears, it's quite large. Like 46, yeah. The lug to lug without the bracelet is 48, and with the male end links on this bracelet is 53. Yeah, so the size is a little big for some people's liking, I think. I have a 7.5 inch wrist, so it fits me okay. It is kind of pushing it a little bit. But yeah, the main attraction I think is just the thinness. It's just how thin it is, and still having a display case back with this pretty nicely decorated movement. I'll go into the movement in a bit. And also a great feature is it's got this micro adjustment, so like you can just kind of on the fly do micro adjustment, which is super handy. I think this is my first watch with on the fly micro adjustment. Alright, some people do kind of say like they kind of wish this had the signature Formex suspension design on their other models, like the Essence line and all that. Fun fact, Formex actually did make a diver in the past with the suspension design. It's called the DS2100 diver. I'll add a picture in it, but you do have to compromise when you add a suspension design. It becomes very big and very bulky. But yeah, if you are looking for a Formex diver with a suspension, you can check that one out. I don't think it's in production anymore. You have to find it second market. The bracelet is very well made. It does taper a little bit. It starts at 22 millimeter and it tapers down to 20. I do kind of wish it tapered a little bit more. Like this watch is so thin and kind of elegant that I could see myself wearing this in more formal events if it wasn't for this bracelet. Like, this bracelet feels very sporty. It looks very sporty. I may get the Milanese bracelet to see if that can like make it more dressy. I also do have, like, this is one of my other watches. This mesh bracelet is a 22 millimeter lug width as well, and this one does taper down to 18. So I did put this on the Formex just to see how it looks, and you'll see in the video it does look a little bit awkward. I'm not sure why. And maybe because this porthole design is so wide at this point that if it tapered very significantly, it may look a little strange. So I don't know if I do want to get one with more tapering, so I may just get the Formex mesh bracelet, because that one I think it's also 22 to 20. Alright, so yeah, after 2 weeks of use, I think I couldn't be happier. Like, this is kind of perfect for my work. So I work in the healthcare industry, and sometimes we need to do procedures. Like before procedures, we always have to put like lidocaine on for the numbing agent, and once you put it on, you gotta wait like 20 minutes or something. So I put it on and I just turn the bezel to here, wait for it to get to 20, and then I can start doing the procedure. So the GMT bezel here, it's still quite nice. Like I don't use it for work because of the example I just told you, but this black and blue does have a nice color match with my work uniform. I'll add in like some pictures when I'm wearing this at work. But other than that, yeah, I really don't see me using this tracking a third time zone. Like you can kind of make an argument that because this bezel is loomed, you can just keep it at the original position and be able to track your second time zone in the dark. But honestly, yeah, I'm not gonna use this. Maybe when my work became very international, who knows. Let's see. Yeah, so you know, this has the GMT function, which is quite nice. I do track the time zone in like a different area, I think Vancouver or Calgary. But having a GMT movement with a timing bezel, I think is like the best of both worlds. I'm not really sure why more company doesn't do this. Like when I was looking for a dive style watch, I was actually looking mostly at GMT watches with a timing bezel, and I only found like 2 good examples in this price bracket. Well, one of them is a little higher. Like the Mito Ocean Star GMT was a good candidate, but that one was like 44mm. And then I think Horage also does a GMT that's super nice with the timing bezel. It has like a micro rotor, like in-house movement, but that one's like pushing $5,000. I think if you were early, maybe you could have gotten it for $4,000. But yeah, so that's like kind of my overall review of this. I do want to spend some time getting into the movement of this watch. So if you don't want to know about the movement, you can just stop the video. But let me just take the bracelet off and just kind of talk about the movement for a while. So this movement is by Sellita. It's the SW330-2. I think this is like probably the 3rd iteration of the 330. The vanilla version came out, and then -1 came later because they changed a few components to the GMT hand. I think there was like this whole issue back when Ming made a watch and the GMT or one of the hands were not moving right. So I think Sellita upgraded that to the -1. And then the -2, I believe, is just a minor revision. The main difference is the power reserve was upped, and this one, the -2, has 56 hours of power reserve. So this movement is COSC certified. It's my first chronometer watch. The way you can tell is that there is a serial number on the movement right here, and that serial number will match on your certificate from COSC, and that's how you know your movement It's the cost grade. So I think in the Swiss third-party industry, ETA and Sellita, they have similar grading system for their movements. I think ETA technically have 5 grades. They call it the economic, and then standard, and then elaborate, then top, and then the last one is chronometer. Whereas Sellita has similar, it's 4 tiers: standard, then special, then top, and then chronometer. From my research, the difference in the grades are very similar between the two companies. So the main difference, I would say, is the materials that are used in the springs, the mainspring, the hairspring, and the balance wheel. So I'll start with the I'll add in a picture. I'll start with the mainspring. The mainspring in the standard and elaborate is called Nivaflex NO, and then the top in the chronometer is called Nivaflex NM. The difference between the two material, as you can see in the picture, the actual material is the same, but what they do is how they like arc the metal at the tips. And basically what the NM allows is after 24 hours, it's able to produce more torque at 8.92 compared to the NO. After 24 hours is only 8.83. So why is this important? Well, if you know how COSC does their measurements, one of the main standard is how accurate the watch is running 24 hours after compared to the beginning. So if you have a mainspring that's able to decrease the difference between initial torque and the torque after 24 hours, you will get a more accurate reading. So I think that's just like a trick that ETA or Sellita does to kind of play around with the rules in COSC. Like another trick they do is just to make a watch with a longer power reserve, because longer power reserve basically means that after 24 hours, the drop off wouldn't be as significant because it's a smaller percentage of the overall power range. The next one is the hairspring. The hairspring in the regular or the standard and the like the regular two tiers is called Nivarox, and then in the top and the chronometer tier it's called Anachron. And basically Anachron material is better for temperature and magnetism, so it's basically like a better hairspring. This is not to be confused with the hairspring in newer ETAs called Nivachron. Newer in-house, well, not in-house, but newer ETA movement that is made specifically for their Swatch Group watches like Longines and Tissot. Sometimes they would use a new hairspring called Nivachron. I don't know the details about that one specific. Honestly, these hairspring, there's very little details. All I know is that Anachron is better than Nivarox, and Nivachron is likely better than Anachron. But yeah. So when you go on the Sellita website to look at their tiers, they don't actually mention the difference between the mainspring, the hairspring, and the calibration technique. But if you go on the Formex website, you do find an interesting article by the founder, and near the bottom it says that the hairspring and the mainspring are supplied by the Swatch Group. This is talking about a Sellita SW330 Movement. So I think in general, the Sellita, they don't mention it because they just buy the assembled mainspring and hairspring from ETA, and so I would assume that's the difference is the same between the two companies. So some other differences, if you look at on the Sellita website, between the lower tier and the higher tier, is that the shock absorber, lower tier is called Novodiac, and the higher tier is the famous Incabloc. Honestly, I don't know if there's any difference, but watchmakers say Incablocs are easier to service. The balance wheel is made out of, the higher tier is made out of Lucidor, whereas the lower tier is made of nickel, which Lucidor is better for temperature changes, and I think magnetism as well. And then the last difference, which is not mentioned on the Sellita but on the ETA website, is the let me see where it is. Yeah, so the timing regulation on the lower tier is using a machine called Super-2A, and then on the top in the chronometer grade, they use a machine called Omega Metric. So this is interesting because Omega Metric is a very expensive machine that only very large company would have. This machine basically is able to take your balance wheel and your hairspring and your probably a mainspring, I'm not sure. I'll add in a picture, and basically is able to like kind of match every single individual component to the most accurate of the beat rate. Like if you're aiming for 28,800 beats per hour, then I think each component, even though it's already very well precision made, has some minor differences. So this machine basically puts everything in and then kind of matches it to the most perfected timing. So like a master watchmaker who's making, you know, a few watches a year, he's able to do this with time and experience. But if you're making movement on a massive scale and you still want to achieve super good accuracy, you probably need this machine. So yeah, this is one of the reasons why ETA or Sellita movements are no joke. They are a workhorse machine. Okay, so the last difference is obviously the finishing. There are different finishing grade. This Chronometer one has blue screws. So I think in my Creedor review, I did talk about how I thought these blue screws were not tempered blue, but chemically blued, because I said the middle line was silver and not blued. Well, I found a nice YouTube video that does explain why that happens, and it is indeed thermally blued. This rotor is finished by Formex themselves, and then I believe on the rotor itself, those 3 dots were also thermally blued. Yeah, it's hard to catch. They're very small nuts or screws. I can't even tell. So yeah, overall this is a pretty nice looking movement. Doesn't have any Geneva stripes, but that's fine. All right. So after like learning about all this Swiss watch movement industry between like Etta, Sellita, and all that, it does like make you really start to appreciate like this well-oiled giant machine that is the Swiss watch industry. Like, sure, it's not as sexy as having, you know, a single master watchmaker, you know, hand making everything and hand adjusting everything for you, but you can't deny like that these third-party movement company is what allows the Swiss watch industry to be so dominant and respected on a global scale. Like, of course, if Etta or Sellita didn't exist, someone else would have stepped in, such as the giant from the east, Seiko, and like a small company like Formex probably may have started using NH movement, who knows, or maybe it would been even impossible for them to get off the ground in the first place. So that is something to think about. I think this is probably it for the review. I may add some like B-rolls just to spice up this video, but yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.